Hi, I'm Charles E. Dale, Australia Chair, and welcome to another episode of Pacific Policy Pulse. Today I'm thrilled to welcome Congressman McCaul into CSIS. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Charles, thanks for having me.
So can you tell us, you were out in the region recently, you traveled to Australia. Can you tell us about the trip a little bit?
It's always fascinating. Australia, the way it's positioned from a geography standpoint, it really is, I would say, kind of the bulkhead or the beachhead to counter China. When I traveled to Taiwan, they did war games around the island in a very intimidating way. The South China Sea, we saw, these warships from China with heavy water cannons in a very belligerent way hitting Philippine vessels. They warned us that we are in Chinese sovereign territory. We should turn back and go home. And I think this belligerence is actually backfiring against China to some extent with the island nations. The point is, though, they're getting very aggressive, and we need deterrence in the region, and we need a counter to that to avoid a conflict which could escalate to the next World War III. And so that's why AUKUS, I envision it was so important that we enhance this alliance between the United States, the UK, and Australia when it comes both to submarines, nuclear submarines, which are really the crown jewel of our military. And I call it the beast in the ocean. And then pillar two, which is innovation in technology, which is AI-driven quantum computing. If you study warfare, you know that the next wave, next generation of defense articles are going to be AI-driven. And I think this is what Chairman Xi, when he looks at this, and the landscape is what really keeps him up at night.
On the landscape and making sure that he keeps thinking about this, from a congressional point of view, as a legislator, what's on the agenda for this coming year? What do we have to get after? What are you thinking about?
Well, we got a lot of the major work done. This is a congressionally driven program issue. It was bipartisan, as it should be. The submarines were a very important part of this, but pillar two is as well. I think what we need to do, we have the funding for the submarines, but we need to ensure that Congress's intent is fulfilled. And what do I mean by that? In the bill, we said that the president, once he certifies that their export control laws are comparable to ours, and that being UK and Australia, then he shall deliver defense articles. Doesn't say may, doesn't say discretionary. They have created an excluded technologies list, which in fact does exempt or accept technologies from the exemption of ITAR, which is the international regulations. So we need to work on that. And I've been assured at higher levels in the United States military that they are going to loosen those restrictions. But that is something that we, both in, legislatively, but also by oversight. And I think educating the new administration coming in, this was, the inception of all this was Secretary Pompeo meeting with the ODNI in Australia during the prior administration. So I'm very hopeful that they have ownership. They will continue this vigorously and not make so many exceptions that will literally swallow up the exemption to ITAR.
Final question, which is more important than the first two. We ask everyone who comes in here, Congressman, what are you reading these days?
Well, Freedom Forge, Arthur Herman is a good friend of mine.
It's a great book.
And it really falls in line with what we've been talking about today at CSIS about the defense industrial base. And some say, well, wow, is this going to hurt us in the DIB? No, AUKUS is going to help the defense industrial base. The more we can co-produce weapon systems with our allies, the better off we're all going to be.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come into CSIS, for recording this with us, and stay tuned for another installation of the video series.